countdown to the last comic shop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, it is now time for more of the Last Comic Shop podcast.
That is right. We are opening the shop, and we've got both DC and Marvel, and other stuff too, but mostly DC and Marvel this week in the shop. Big, giant, blow-up dolls of Superman and Spider-Man, different corners, and it's like a birthday party, but for Marvel characters and DC characters.
It's for everybody. It's for the young, the new readers. It's for the oldies, the moldies, and everybody in between. All those folks that care about Supermans and Spider-Mans and all that other fun stuff. We're bringing them back together. We're getting the bands back together, kids, for one giant mega band. It's like when the Journey tribute band met up with the Bon Jovi tribute band and created Bon Journey.
That's right. We're on a mission from God.
I'm the host with the most, Andy Larson, and I'm joined by Jay Scott and Chad Smith, my wonderful two co-hosts. And I'm really glad that we started moving away from the blow-up dolls. Like when Jay was talking about the blow-up dolls of Spider-Man and Superman, and I just... Sure.
See, I was thinking like the car dealership guys, like those.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Stand outside.
No, I did not.
Where did your mind go?
Evidently, Superman with like a hole in the middle of his mouth, where it was just like that's where you put the kryptonite. It's terrible.
Yikes! All right, moving on.
Yes, moving on to this week's book. It is Superman Spider-Man. Yes, it came out 2 weeks ago. Hopefully you were at your LCS, your local comic book shop, picking up this issue in a wide variety of comic book covers. There were so many covers. And also, again, it's to kind of talk about a little bit about the Spider-Man Superman that's coming out next week. That's right. This is kind of sandwiched in between these two events.
And remember, kids, because they put out 45 different covers for each of these, and it's confusing. And they come out with the same book with a different title, but it's not the same book. It's a whole different book this time. So don't forget, Superman, Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Superman. They both have 45 covers, but they're different books. I know with Batman, Deadpool, and Deadpool, Batman, people got confused. Like, no, I already bought that one. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
And last week was DC's book. That's why it was Superman, Spider-Man, because DC was putting that out, so Superman came first. And next week is the Marvel book. That's why it's Spider-Man, Superman. Different storylines, different stories, more stuff going on. So lots of crossovers in both issues, lots of different characters, not just Superman and Spider-Man. They have lots of B and C and D stories in those books. So just like the Deadpool Batman series, lots of good Marvel DC joint goodness, like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with pickles.
Oh, man. That was like the end of the Batman Deadpool where they brought back Logo?
Yes.
That was the pickles in there.
But speaking of that,
banana.
For decades, us fans of comic books have been without these crossovers, right? I mean, we are old enough to remember the fact that like DC and Marvel used to play nice all the time. Like they played nice in the 70s. Put out some great treasuries, some of which we've covered on the Last Comic Shop. We've covered, the original Superman and Spider-Man team up. We've covered Batman and the Incredible Hulk. We've done X-Men and Teen Titans. They played nice. And then a decade passed and they weren't playing again. But then in the 90s, they played nice a lot. And we had other books we covered, like JLA Avengers, DC versus Marvel, and you had the Amalgam universe, and lots of good stuff. And then they stopped playing nice again. And it was like a desert for decades, like 2 decades, almost 3. They weren't playing nice. You couldn't get a book to save your life with Superman and Spider-Man. But now they're playing nice again. And it's given me a lot of hope for what the future might bring. And so with today's opening segment, I wanted to throw it out to J.A. and Chad. With them playing nice, are there things you want to see? Are there things on your wish list? Potential crossovers that we would like out of these two companies?
Nope.
No.
The end.
Really? You don't want to see any other crossovers between these two companies? You don't want to see a new X-Men Titans? You don't want to see Titans X-Men?
We get a Black Cat Catwoman series?
See? Look at that.
There you go. And Hellcat.
All the
Cat
cats.
Scratch Fever.
I guess Rain Sinclair. Wolfsbane. Is she a wolf feral? I thought she was more of a cat.
I don't know. She
had
had
feral
wolf
dog.
hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you
so
go.
she's not on the cat side of things. Cheetah and Tigra.
All the cats.
They can all get together and they can put on an off-Broadway show of cats.
But J.A., you do seem to be embracing the zeitgeist.
You know why they're playing nice? Because they realize they're giant soulless corporations and these books make a crap ton of money. So, while, I could be happy about it, or I could say it's just another death knell rattle in the whole, this is the end of comics as we used to know it.
Oh, man. I don't know.
But I do like all those variant covers.
That's the death knell. It's all the variants. But no, I think of when I was a kid, one of the first comics I had was X-Men Titans. And that book was simultaneously one of the best introductions to the X-Men and the Titans. And you got them all in one. And it was such a great story. I didn't even know it was Walt Simonson until years later. But to get an opportunity to have some of those kinds of books where you can take these characters and distill them down to what makes them great and pair them up with different creative teams. I'm thinking the last time around with Batman Deadpool, they put Kevin Smith, who had significant runs on Green Arrow and Daredevil. And so they teamed up Daredevil and Green Arrow with Kevin Smith in there. That stuff is fun. And so there's definitely an opportunity in there to have some fun with the different creators and some of the different folks that have, crossed the street, creators that have gone from one company to the other. But I'll be darned if I can think of one.
I'm saying, wow. Like, I thought this was going to be a hotbed. Just great ideas. Like, is it because they've done all the good ones yet? I mean, initially I was like, oh man, they should do some things with like the New Gods and stuff. But then I was like, well, but they already had that awesome like Galactus versus Darkseid series that John Byrne did in the 90s. And that was kind of everything I wanted from like a team up of Marvel and DC, because that was all of like Jack Kirby's toys that they just smushed together, like Silver Surfer and Darkseid and Galactus, like all the cosmic Kirby toys were just smushed. So it's like, I don't know if we're gonna. That'd just be a retread if we did that again. But look at the JA. Is there a character that Silver Surfer could team up with at DC that you haven't seen yet?
I can't think of one. I mean, he teamed up with Superman. He teamed up with Green Lantern.
Would you want him to fight more Orion? You love that New God series. Ram V doing Silver Surfer and bringing that in?
Yeah, but it's been done, as you said. So, I don't know. Something weird, like, I wouldn't mind seeing Silver Surfer team up with, like, Barda. That would be kind of cool. Or the Little Bat.
The Batgirl.
Why not? Two people that hardly talk.
See, I was trying to think of somebody we could team up with Meatball Batman. Like, who needs to team up with Meatball Batman from the Marvel Universe
She-Hulk.
to make that? She-Hulk. Immediately jump to that one. You're like, She-Hulk.
The Maker with his big head.
I would
Who's
like
got
to
the biggest head?
I would like to see some of those Ultimate Universe characters, like the Peter Parker with the beard. He could show up with Absolute Batman. Why not?
Right, so then Batman can show up in his dump truck and Peter Parker can show his kid, look, it's a truck. Wow. I don't know. I like the crossovers because I think they have mass appeal, and especially for young readers, they're used to seeing all these characters mashed up anyways in Fortnite. Is that still a thing? Or they used to be?
Oh, yeah. I think so. But no, it's an opportunity to distill these characters down to their essence. And I know, like, DC's had a lot of success with things like the Absolute Universe, but I think everybody benefits from taking that time to step back and be like, okay, what makes Green Arrow work, and how can we make that happen? And Marvel, they could definitely use a chance to reevaluate, like, okay, let's look at the X-Men. What are we going to do? What are we going to do with Scott Summers? Who do we team him up with and why?
I will say that I would really love to see another crossover between the JLA and the Avengers. I was a huge fan of that book when we originally reviewed the first one on the Last Comic Shop. And one of the reasons I liked it was that third issue where they just made it like, these people are just hanging out all the time. I think there's still some wiggle room with that. I think that's one of the nice things about the Playing Nice. They're going to put out this facsimile edition of the JLA and Avengers, which is great because it wasn't even in the crossover omnibus that they put out. They didn't even put that out. So hopefully we'll get a hardback version of that at some point. But I want to see Superman punch Thanos again. I want to see Captain America hanging out with Wonder Woman again. Like I think these putting the big teams with the characters, I don't think it's overkill. I think it's an opportunity to celebrate what we like about characters, regardless of what company they work for. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to just see what
Here's what I want. I want somehow you take late 70s era Batman, the Neil Adams era Batman, teaming up with Frank Miller era Daredevil.
Ooh,
with like the Hand and all the Ra's al Ghul Lazarus pits, and then all the swashbuckling and flying across the country. And I think that would be lots of fun. But yeah, I want to see him go back in time to when these characters were cool and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now you're on the trolley. I want to finally see some Thor and New Gods teaming up. That would be fun. It was supposed to be a Thor thing, and then they never did it. So I was like, why don't we do it that way? Why don't we actually write a mini-series that was like the New Gods was the continuation of the Thor and the Asgardians? Let's do it. We have a chance to do it. It's on my wish list. I'd like to see it.
Which babies are you swapping this time? Are you going to swap Darkseid and Thanos and put them in the other universe and see what happens?
Yeah, why not? I'm glad that you guys have finally come around to this whole nope. All the things have been done before. Pshaw! We've been waiting 3 decades for this, kids.
Okay,
let's have fun.
Remember that wonderful Marvel book that we reviewed, which was meant to come out to coincide with the Olympics and then didn't? So
the Contest of Champions?
Contest of Champions. How about that, but with all the gods, the New God, the Asgardians, Wonder Woman, all together in an Olympic Games type thing.
See? Now you're on the trolley.
So imagine how good Thor would be at the hammer throw.
Thor doesn't throw the hammer throws Thor. I don't know. Whatever we can do to pair J. Jonah Jameson up with more people. That's all I want. More J. Jonah Jameson, whatever universe I need to use to make that happen.
Perry White can get together and talk about the death of the publishing industry.
Oh, man.
Little meta. But was J. Jonah Jameson in today's comic book? Was he in Superman, Spider-Man? We'll see. Right after this commercial break, when we give our review of this particular crossover event between DC and Marvel. And we also kind of look ahead a little bit to the next one with Superman, Spider-Man. All that and more right after this commercial break.
Really wish they would space them out. I get so confused.
Looking to save money on your collectible supplies? Whether it's comics, cards, sports memorabilia, or miscellaneous pop culture bric-a-brac, make sure to use promo code LCSPOD to get 10% off your orders at bcwsupplies.com. Not only does it get you a discount on BCW's already low prices, but using LCSPOD at checkout is an amazing way to show support to the Last Comic Shop podcast, the most incredible comic book podcast on the airwaves. So if you're in need of collectible supplies, head out to bcwsupplies.com and use promo code LCSPOD today. That's promo code LCSPOD. Cheers!
Hey guys, it's John from New Dimension Comics. Did you know that every Thursday at 8 o'clock on YouTube, you can watch me and Justin talk about all kinds of cool comics, reviews, nerd news, and just random stuff as well? Make sure you check it out at YouTube. Just search New Dimension Comics Presents The Toddcast. Then, while you're at it, go to ndcomics.com, check out all of our stores. And we also run a con in Pittsburgh Three Rivers Comic Con. You can check that out at threeriverscomiccon.com.
And we're back. And remember, the Last Comic Shop podcast is brought to you by VCW Supplies. That's VCWSupplies.com, where you can put in our promo code LCSPOD and save 10% off your purchase. That includes comic book bags, comic book boards, comic book boxes, and other sports trading card paraphernalia. All that more waits for you at www.bcwsupplies.com. Promo code LCSPOD for 10% off. Now, let's get to the main course, the big crossover of all crossovers, the team-up of the century for this here new century. It's Superman Spider-Man #1. Andy, who was involved with Superman Spider-Man #1? At least the main course.
So yeah, we are going to talk about the first story, which is called Truth, Justice, and Great Responsibility. It was written by Mark Waid with Jorge Jimenez as the artist. Tomu Mori was the colorist, and Tom Napolitano was the letterer, and Marie Javins was the editor. If you did get cover A, I believe Jorge Jimenez did that one, Shrugs?
Yeah.
But I did not get cover A. I got cover T, which was done by Doc Shaner, drawing the Spider-Mobile and the Supermobile from the Superpowers action figure line. Prankster stuff is being thrown at them, which is awesome. Which cover did you get, Chad?
I got two. I got a shiny cover A because there's the foil version. And then I also got the Art Adams Superman Spider-Man. Jay, do you remember which version you got?
I got the Stanley Art Germ Lau edition, which featured Supergirl and Silk.
Oh, yeah. Right?
Neither of which appear in the book at all.
Yeah.
No,
But that's all right.
No. There were a lot of cheesecake covers with characters that didn't appear in the... I know for my own son, he's coming of age, and I thought, well, what could be better than a J. Gott Campbell Supergirl and Spider-Gwen cover? So I got him that one, and he said, ooh la la! Muy caliente! So he definitely approved of that. But J.A., what happens in this particular story of truth, justice, and great responsibility?
Doc Ock teams up with Brainiac because Brainiac has some sort of virus that he needs to get offloaded from his brain. So Doc Ock figures out how to do that, and they start downloading that virus into all the humans' brains, which has disastrous effects on humans. So Superman and Spider-Man, who know each other and know each other's alternate identities, team up to try to figure out what's happening, and they go up into space and fight off Brainiac and Doc Ock. Doc Ock fights Superman with some kryptonite arms, and Brainiac fights Spider-Man and drops half of the ship on him, and then Spider-Man has his Steve Ditko moment where he's got to push up all the weight of the ship to put like the anti-gravity back on the ship or something. I don't know. He pushes a lever and suddenly the ship is not plummeting to Earth quite so much. It's just a really fun, exciting one-off story that doesn't have a lot of stakes, but yet still feels like it's got some meat.
And plus, Mark Waid does find a way of kind of depowering Superman a little bit. So he needs Spider-Man to actually do some of the stuff. In this case, Brainiac's little brain messages or brainwave things are being transmitted via kryptonite particles. So like kryptonite particles are flying all through the air, and that's weakening Superman to a certain extent. And so, oh no, you got to turn that off, Spider-Man, so that I can save the world. And so, again, a reason that Superman would need help, which
Yeah, it's as fast neutrons.
And I do like also that it's the young Spider-Man to the older Superman, sort of the classic Peter Parker comes off as a college student type person, and Superman is established, sort of not quite father-son, but older brother, younger brother dynamic. It's not the old dad Spider-Man, but it's also not the Spider-Man that is some tech genius guy who owned a company that was Facebook-like or something. I don't know.
I think you've stumbled on to the Mark Waid of it all. where Mark Waid is really great for these timeless stories. They could be in the modern continuity. They could be set 15 years ago. Like, he has a way of getting to the essence of the characters. And Mark Waid also gets points in my head for that scene with Spider-Man and Brainiac, where Brainiac's like, what incredible reflexes. And he's like, you might say with great power comes great response ability. They're like, oh, I love that so much. But the main draw for me in this story were those money shots where you get Spider-Man and Superman together, or Spider-Man carrying the weight, Superman lifting up Brainiac's skull ship. All of the art in here, Jorge Jimenez, he is a treat. There's not a lot of artists out there these days that I think could bring me to the table, but he's one of them. His art is so clean and crisp, and his action is fluid. But those money shots, man, he hits them. You get the Superman opening up the shirt with the big S symbol across his chest, and then once the story's all done, he does the Ross Andru homage to the first Superman Spider-Man crossover, and it's like, ah.
I'm glad that you brought up the whole Ross Andru, Jerry Conway original Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man, which is an episode of the last Comic Shop. You can go back in our Evergreen archives and listen to our review of the original Treasury that started this whole DC, Marvel crossover jazz. Well, technically, there was a Wizard of Oz thing that came before that. But in any case, this was the first time they had superheroes. And honestly, I feel like for those folks that have read that particular story, this story is kind of, in some ways, an unofficial sequel. A little bit. It pulls from some of the threads that you got in that original Superman Amazing Spider-Man story. Again, the age difference between the Superman and the Spider-Man. The Superman in this particular book is very much pre-Crisis Superman, where he can kind of sort of do everything. Again, why does he need Spider-Man? But again, Mark Waid solves that really eloquently. So that's really nice. And the fact that they don't really bring up a lot of the other supporting characters from either Superman or Spider-Man's mythology, like he's not talking about dating Black Cat or Mary Jane or whatever. So you just kind of get just Spider-Man, just Peter Parker's Spider-Man. And it can, again, be at any point in that character's long historic run. And so I dig all that. Plus you get Doc Ock with kryptonite arms, which was awesome. I love it anytime people kryptonite anything against Superman, and that's something that you don't get unless you have a Marvel DC crossover. Like, I'm sure there is, but nobody as famous as Doc Ock in the DC universe that has tentacle arms that can be used as a weapon that you could kryptonite. I don't know about the Brainiac part of all of this. Maybe it's because Lex Luthor is being used for the Spider-Man Superman story that will be coming out in like 2 weeks. But I would have loved to have seen for them to go full on Jerry Conway, Ross Andru, and bring back the team up of Lex Luthor and Doc Ock from the original story. That's just me.
I didn't mind the Brainiac. Brainiac's also one of Superman's big bads. I think sometimes they lean too much on Lex Luthor. Yes, Lex Luthor is great, and that's why we love him, and that's why he gets used so much. But it's nice to see some of the other rogues gallery show up. Same on the Spider-Man side. I'm glad it wasn't Green Goblin or somebody. I'm interested to see if Lex Luthor is going to show up in the Spider-Man Superman. Who's going to be the Marvel side of things? Is it going to be
they've already teased it. It is the Green Goblin. So again, if you want those two evil industrialists teaming forces and the weird hair, one has no hair, the other one has the strange weave, that's coming in like 2 weeks. I like the Doc Ock part of this. I won't lie. The nicest thing about this is the fact that Mark Waid gives like Doc Ock some actual reasons to be bad. Like the fact that he's like jealous of all these other people that get all this like attention. And he's like, I'm not the greatest scientist with radiation. That's Bruce Banner. I'm not this.
There was one thing I was confused about, though. Superman flies up into space to go confront Doc Ock and Brainiac. And then Spider-Man suddenly on Brainiac's ship, too. How did Spider-Man get into space? How did he survive? Did Superman just fly fast enough that it didn't matter that Spider-Man was in outer space for those 2 seconds? I was confused by that.
I don't think he was in outer space. I think he was in some bunker somewhere. They at one point say
the ship comes down to Earth.
Yeah. Superman went up there to fight Brainiac, but like he was like, "Oh shoot, you're not Brainiac, you're Doc Ock. I got tricked." And Brainiac's down on
No, I think Brainiac is on Brainiac's ship, and Spider-Man hitched a ride with Superman. This is how I read it, to get onto the ship.
I think he got there ahead of time. I don't think it matters.
That's the point. It doesn't matter because it's still a great story. So let's not nitpick.
Yeah, this is not one to pick nits about.
I will pick nits about the whole publication of it, though.
Oh, yeah, there are nits to be picked there. That's for sure.
But before we get into that, I think we should talk about some of the secondary stories, because part of my nitpicking is that this thing is a very hefty tome and is not cheap. If you're trying to get people into comic books, it's $9 or $8, right? $7.99 or $8.99. What was the cover price?
If you got the cardstock covers, they're $8.99.
Yeah. But you do get a lot in here. I think it's some 72 pages or something like that. And you get a wide variety of stories. And I guess to JA's point, let's real quickly go over some of our favorites and least favorites that came out of the side stories.
Yes, because I think there is a bit of padding in some of these secondary stories. There are a couple of them that they didn't need to include, or I have questions. I was totally confused by the Superboy Prime story. I didn't get that one at all. Why is Spider-Man in his black costume? Why are they doing the She-Hulk thing where they're breaking the fourth wall, but it's not the source wall? Who is Spider-Boy?
Listen, you have to follow our pals, George from Shortbox Summary and Zach Thompson from Thompson's Comic Corner, as they go through Infinite Crisis. And then you can learn about Superboy Prime punching the source wall and making all this stuff happen.
By the way, that story is called Pages. It's done by Christopher Priest with art by Daniel Sampere. And I do agree that one was kind of weird. Other than the fact that High Evolutionary shows up, I love some High Evolutionary. I think he's a cool-looking villain. But Chad, real quickly, what was one of the stories you thought was really great out of those side ones?
My bone of contention with this whole issue is I thought they were all pretty good, right? I didn't think, and including the main story, there wasn't a story that knocked my socks off. I guess the closest to that would be the Jimmy Olsen, Jimmy Con Carnage from from Matt Fraction and Steve Lieber, where it's just a continuation of the Jimmy Olsen maxi series from from a long time ago. But they get the band back together and they send Jimmy Olsen into the Daily Bugle, and he's there, and Phil Sheldon from Marvels is asleep on the couch. And Peter Parker's getting ready to leave with both MJ and Felicia Hardy. Jimmy encounters Carnage, and he goes to signal Superman on his watch, and it's like, oh no, firmware updating. And then Jimmy gets killed. But anyway, it's a real fun story. Another bit of wordplay. The whole, I need to find Spider-Man, and they're like, listen, you have to pronounce the hyphen, otherwise people will think you're a tourist. They're like, that was the best part.
And that's why he gets killed, because Carnage says, you didn't say it with the hyphen.
Exactly. Spider-Man.
What about the giant page with the Daily Bugle and the headline, I told you so, Bugle Pub Jameson, Spider-Man is both a threat and...
That doesn't beat the opening page with the ABCs. Always be capturing photography of Spider-Man, who is not as good as my son, who's currently on the moon, because then he gets a full moon and turns into a werewolf. But
come on, Chad. It was the best story in this book. It was so wonderful. I laughed. I grinned from ear to ear. That Jimmy Olsen story was worth $8.99 that I paid for this. My goodness. And it had absolutely nothing to do with Spider-Man. It had everything to do with Jimmy Olsen getting killed by Carnage, which was the first time I actually loved Carnage in any sort of book whatsoever. This was great. I will say that my second favorite story in this book, I know it's corny, I know it's cliche, but I like the Tom King, Jim Lee story with basically the team up of Mary Jane and Lois Lane as they talk to each other while Superman and Spider-Man are fighting a Sentinel that can't be destroyed until Gambit shows up. And then you get some sweet Jim Lee art of Gambit, which, come on. Didn't we all love the fact that Jim Lee drew Gambit in a big 2-page spread? That was great.
I
was
just
great.
11 words worth of notes on that one. It's MJ and Lewis are old pals. Jim Lee draws Gambit. Hot.
You know how long I've been waiting for this? Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
That's that story.
I thought that would be right up your alley, J.A. I thought that seeing that Gambit 2-page spread would have made you just salivate like a Pavlonian dog.
It was good. It wasn't my favorite of the secondary stories. The one I liked the most was the Power Girl and Punisher story, to be
There
honest.
you go.
by Gail Simone and Balin Ortega. Just because it was fun, and it's sort of the Punisher thinks he's got this thing all sussed out, and Power Girl turns out to be Power Girl.
You know what I liked about that one? It reminded me a lot of Archie meets Punisher. Like, even the way that like Punisher is drawn in some of these scenes, it kind of seems Archie-esque. His profile, he's like drinking coffee in the one scene. I'm like, no, that looks kind of like Archie. And it's a fun Punisher. It's
she gives him the umbrella because he's standing in the rain as the bouncer, and then when he starts to break up everything, she's like, no guns. The one I didn't understand at all, and I even was asking you, Andrew, before the show, was the Jonathan Kent and Ben Parker story, The Bridge, by Jeff Lemire and Rafa Sandoval. Are these like sons of Superman and Spider-Man? He's like, no, that's the uncle and the dad. And it's like, what? But they're like in modern cars. They look like I didn't understand that at all because they look like they were in modern times.
It was by far the weakest story in this collection, even more than the Superboy Prime. At least again, that had high evolutionary and interesting punchings of fourth walls, and some of the artwork was neat. This one was just
very
dumb.
saccharine.
It just, I didn't like it at all. Like, it didn't fit any. What is this? Like,
I thought the art didn't fit the characters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the story is like, what if a young Jonathan Kent, before he rescues Superman, and a young Ben Parker meet up and save some kids from a flooding bridge, and then go drink coffee and cocoa on the farm. That's
because they're good dads,
but they're not dads yet. It shows that they will be good dads. They're just good men. Yeah.
So the one that got me was the Sean Murphy story, where he brings together Superboy from the future and Batman Beyond and Spider-Man 2099. And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And they get to the part where they're going to go do something, and then it's over.
Yes. What? Yeah, it was some great setup. Hopefully we get the continuation in the next book, because I was like, oh, I'm looking forward to this. And it's like, that's it. I was like, what? I turned the page. It's like, oh, no.
Yeah, it's just a lot of exposition. And again, setting up a story that could have been its own issue, but it wasn't. Instead, it was just a tease, which was not fair.
I wanted to hear your opinion, Chad, of the Greg Rucka, Nicola Scott bias story, which is Daily Planet and Daily Bugle.
So let me hold up my notepad. This one's 3 words. J. Jonah Jameson is right. The end.
What I loved about that particular story wasn't even the whole story. I just liked there was a really great page where basically J. Jonah Jameson is talking about all the superheroes that don't wear masks and how we can trust all those folks because they leave their secret identities at the door and everybody knows who they are and we can trust them. Like the Fantastic Four. They show a picture of the Fantastic Four without masks. Wonder Woman without a mask. And then they show Superman without a mask. And then they show Captain America with the mask. He does point out that Batman wears the same mask, by the way, with just the mouth part being visible, and like that's all you can.
Yeah, but no secret identity, I guess. Everyone knows.
Oh, I see how it is.
But
yeah.
Listen, you're going wrong here. J. Jonah Jameson is right. That's all you need to know.
This. But what I like is that at the end you've got Clark Kent and Lois walking out, and Spider-Man's hanging there because he knows obviously who Superman is, Clark Kent. But J. Jonah Jameson, and they don't know this. And Spider-Man's going, it must be the glasses.
That's right. My goodness. Well, I love the fact in that also that story that Spider-Man is gaslighting J. Jonah Jameson the entire time by hanging from the ceiling right out of his purview. So he's like, Hey, look at me, Jay. You're making fun of me, but I'm right here. I'm right here the whole time, which goes back to, again, the original story by Mark Waid, which makes an interesting point about why Spider-Man would put up with all this constant abuse from J. Jonah Jameson. And he just simply says, in a very heroic way, the only person he's hurting is me. I mean, I can take it, which is awesome for Spider-Man to actually say that. Plus the fact that he's paying me to go to college on all these pictures of Spider-Man. But it was still nice to hear Spider-Man say, hey, I can take it. I'm the superhero. It's fine that he makes fun of, at least he's not making fun of anybody else, which is cool in my books. Any case, we got to get to ratings. So we'll be right back with more Last Comic Shop right after this for our rating of Superman, Spider-Man, as well as a preview of Spider-Man, Superman that'll be coming out in 2 weeks. Stay tuned.
Yeah, don't confuse Superman, Spider-Man one with Spider-Man, Superman one, even though they're coming out the same.
They're different books.
Hello, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
And we're the hosts of Capes on the Couch, the podcast where comics get counseling.
Superheroes don't always get to go home happy. That's where we come in.
We offer psychiatric and mental health evaluation of comic book characters.
We also chat with some of your favorite creators,
Al Ewing,
Erica Schultz,
Gail Simone,
Philip Kennedy Johnson,
Chris Claremont,
about their work on comics.
So check out all our episodes at capesonthecouch.com and follow us at Capes on the Couch on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Hashtag
because comics.
Hi, this is Pat Morta. Looking for a special opportunity to read to your child? You'll find it at your library this April 30th, when libraries bring books and families together for National El Día de los Niños, El Día de los Libros, Children's Day Book Day. To learn more, please contact your local library or visit ala.org/DIA.
Up and away! It is now time for ratings on the Last Comic Shop of Superman and Spider-Man. Jay, what's our 1 out of 4 scale for this?
We're going to go 1 out of 4 primary colors. Red, blue, yellow.
That's how you know that those are the good guys. If they wear red, blue, or yellow, they're the good guys. If they wear purple or green or orange, those are the bad guys, because those were the other colors in the color.
Except for the bad guys that have red, like Carnage.
That's a more modern case. Regardless, I think I'm going to go first. I can't knock this book a lot just because of its significance and the fact that, again, DC and Marvel are playing nice together. And as comic book fans, we finally get a team up with some of the major characters from cross companies. That's super great. I'm really glad that they're continuing this and they're re-releasing all these classic stories that have these characters. It reminds me, I'm not a Marvel fan. I'm not a DC fan. I'm a comic books fan. And so when I get a lot of my characters in the same book, even though they're from different companies, I can just for one hot second say to myself, no, they're just characters I like, and they get to team up in this particular story. So for that, and for the excitement that it brought to local comic book shops everywhere as folks were getting out to get one of the bajillion variant covers of this comic book or several, they were also picking up other comic books, which was nice. So I'm going to give this a solid 3. I think to Chad's point, other than the Jimmy Olsen one, I don't think there was a particular story that was like, oh my God, that was the best thing ever. But none of them were also like, oh, that sucked. It's just nice that we have books like this again. Jay.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a 3. For the excitement that it's doing and what it's doing for the industry, I think is great, especially for Marvel and DC. But I think, anything that's getting people back into comic book stores where they can then be exposed to other things is also great. I love all the variant covers. I do wish that they had played more with some of the other characters as well. Some of the other Spider-Verse characters, especially, we didn't get any Spider-Gwen, we didn't get Silk, we didn't get a lot of the extended Spider-Verse universe, but maybe we'll get that in the next one. I don't know. I do like that most of the stories were very timeless, so you didn't have to have been following along with any of these characters, and that's what made the main story so great. The nitpicks are that it's slightly overpriced if you're trying to get people in to buy a book. Yeah, you're getting lots of stories, but some of them aren't the greatest, or they're not very long, so they do feel like filler a bit. That Jonathan Kent, Ben Parker story you mentioned, the Superboy Prime story, a bit fillery. But then, maybe your mileage may vary. Maybe you're not one who liked the Power Girl Punisher story, which is only 3 or 4 pages, which I felt was very nice. Or the Jimmy Carnage one, in which case you should go die somewhere, because that's great.
This is a little harsh.
Carnage. But, I mean, I like this more than the Batman Deadpool one, maybe because it's the heavy hitters of the DC and Marvel universe. So Batman Deadpool, while that's probably, I wouldn't say they're a more known quantity, but they're just the quote-unquote cooler characters. They're not so square. Superman and Spider-Man, they are the Washington on the Mount Rushmore of comic book companies. So I'm glad that we got them. And looking forward to what they do on the Marvel side of the Marvel DC Spider-Man Superman book.
All right, Chad, wrap us up.
All right, so I think I appreciated this a little bit more. I thought that the fact that all of the stories were pretty good. I said before, none of these, in my mind, were absolute bangers. You have to read this story, but none of them were overly flawed. I think they all served a different purpose. You got your weird meta stories with your Superboy Prime, and that appeals to an audience. You got your fun, silly romance with Punisher Power Girl. You got Jim Lee drawn Gambit, which that's what people want. You got your classic Mark Waid timeless story. I thought all that was pretty good. So I'm going to give it a 3.5. Was it perfect? No. And I'll be honest, I think back to Deadpool Batman and Batman Deadpool. Each of those books had a banger story in it for me. The DC one had the Grant Morrison Batman Deadpool story, which I really enjoyed. And the Marvel one had Daredevil and Green Arrow with Kevin Smith. And I really love that story. This book didn't have that, but the stuff it did had, everything, it was done well. And I don't think it was too bad price-wise for what you get, considering a modern comic, it's going to cost you $4 or $5. The fact that this runs 7 or 8, it is what it is. I think they packed the value in here. And like you said, Jay, these are the Mount Rushmore. These are the top 2 characters for each company. Because of that, sometimes that's a tougher needle to thread, and I thought they did a good job here. So 3.5 primary colors. Were there that many primary colors? Red, blue, yellow?
Yeah, but I don't know. What's a 0.5? Is that like a shade? Would that be a shade of a color?
It's the key in the color wheel. The CMKY, cyan, magenta, yellow,
mauve.
There you go.
Any case, the flagship characters are going to be returning to your comic book shelves in just 2 short weeks. April 22nd is going to be the Marvel version of this Spider-Man Superman. Got a tremendous amount of original stories that, again, are different from the ones we just covered. So, again, it is a completely different book. It's not
Am I the only one that wishes they would just all right, give one company Spider-Man, Superman this year, the other company gets Batman, Deadpool, and then next year they switch. After people have had time to digest and appreciate it, and, I don't like this coming out a month later stuff.
So the headline story is going to be done by Brad Meltzer with Pepe Larraz as it pits Spider-Man and Superman against Lex Luthor and Norman Osborn. A shadow-laden 1930s tale with Spider-Man Noir and Golden Age Superman as told by Dan Slott and Marcos Martin. A crisis ensues as Jeff Johns and Gary Frank bring the Super and Spider-Man families together at the summons of Mysterio. Ooh! Plus, you're going to get Louise Simonson coming back for a John Henry Irons Steel story as he fights the Hobgoblin, drawn by Todd Knock. And Joe Kelly and Roberto Ramos take us on a campus crossover as Gwen Stacy and Lana Lang, I think for the first time. Shrugs.
Oh, the old school girlfriends meet up.
I don't know. You know that everybody is going to be waiting for Miles Morales teaming up with Superman thanks to Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pichelli. All this and more comes out on April 22nd. Spider-Man, Superman. Do not get it confused with the book we just there are lots of more covers, but they're different covers for a different book. All right, it is now time for recommendations. Yes, that time of every single show where we are going to give you other books in addition to Superman, Spider-Man, the crossover of the century, well, at least this century. Oh, man. And any of those myriad of variant covers that you can get, my goodness, there's a plethora of them. There's so many variant covers for this thing. So it's not whether you have this issue, it's how many copies of this issue did you end up getting. And so make sure that you're getting out.
Was it Spider-Man Superman or was it Superman Spider-Man?
It's Superman Spider-Man.
Super Spider-Man.
Superman Spider-Man. That's right. But make sure that you're getting out to your local comic book shop. They have so many variant covers. I'm sure you can still pick it up. So
and don't be confused by Spider-Man Superman, which will be on its way soon.
Yes.
It's not out already. I'm already confused.
In any case. Let's get to J.A. Scott with his recommendation this week. What do you got for us?
So I'm recommending another new book out, the Magic and Colossus series. It's a 5-issue mini-series, Shadows of Tomorrow, written by Ashley Allen. She is the writer of the Magic series that ran last year for 10 issues, and the artist is Herman Peralta. And this is essentially, there's this demon lord dude who's taken over the Rasputin's homeland, and Colossus, coming off of Krakoa, where his brother mind controlled him and made him lie and spy and do horrible things, is sulking as he's wont to do in Russia, though they don't say Russia. And these demons start tracking him down, and every time he goes to a new village, demons show up, and he realizes that they're coming after him, and he's like, if you stop torturing all these people and I let you kill me, will that satisfy you, and will you let these people go? And they say yes. And so the demon's is about to kill him, and right when the demon's about to drop his blow down, Magic shows up and cuts the demon's head off. It's like, yo, dude, what are you doing? You don't need to die. I'll kill them all. And that sets up for this 5-issue series where you're dealing with a bit of sibling problems, combined with Colossus getting over the fact that he was forced to do horrible things, and Magic suddenly coming off of this series where she sort of made peace with Darkchild, just able to go absolute boss mode and kick a lot of demon butt. So it's got some X-Men stuff, it's got some demon stuff. I'm hoping some more Magic the power set, not Magic the person. And it's got one of my favorite characters in Magic. So the Magic and Colossus miniseries.
There you go. My recommendation this week is going into the back catalog of Marvel characters that previous to this week's recording I really didn't give a shit about. But then I found out some cool stuff about it and read some cool issues, and I'm like, this is kind of neat. The issue is actually a team up in itself. It appears in Giant Size Creatures #1. It's a Marvel comic book featuring Werewolf by Night. And what's so famous about it is it's actually the first appearance of the tiger form of Tigra. That's right, Tigra, who is usually the brunt of a lot of jokes. You got Tigra in issue. We all know why you're buying that. But this is actually the issue where Tigra becomes the were-woman. Before this issue, Tigra was actually the cat, who basically wore a costume very similar to what Hellcat, Patsy Walker, would eventually wear. And she was in 4 issues in that series, and she played a very similar role, where she was kind of like a cat burglar kind of adventurer. And it wasn't until this issue that she actually turned into the feline, super-powered character that we all know Tigra to be. And in this issue, Hydra shoots her, and then there's like a whole race of cat people that are secret, and eventually Werewolf by Night falls in love with her and wants her to be his mate. I think everybody wants Tigra to be their mate at some point, but it was a super neat issue, and it gave me some insight into, again, a character that I didn't really care about before this. It's good 70s fluff, if you can find it. It was written by Tony Isabella with great art by Don Perlin and Vince Coletta. So Again, some classic Bronze Age Marvel for you, and a really neat team up. Probably kind of pricey to find, but you can get it in the collection called Tigra, the complete collection. So if you want those issues also with her being the cat and being like, she looks like Hellcat. Well, that's because she was. Pick this book up. Chad?
Okay, so my pick is going to be one. It was almost my pick for our Merry Marvel March before I shifted gears a little bit. But it is going to be the Spider-Man Noir, the Gwen Stacy affair, the 5-issue miniseries that just came out earlier this year. It was written by Eric Larson with art by Andrea Briccardo, except for one issue that had art by Marika Cresta, which that's a whole other thing, Marvel. If you're going to come out with a 5-issue miniseries, why do you have to shift artists midway through a miniseries? Anyway, while that was a minor quibble, part of me really wants the guys to read this one because it checks a lot of boxes. First, you get Spider-Man Noir, who's coming back from his multi-dimensional hopping adventures, and he's late on his rent, and so you get that the Parker Luck aspect. You get all the Depression era Spider-Man fun. You get a Spider-Man with guns, and Aunt May's always telling him, leave your guns at home. There's a pack of newsboys that are cheering him on. The answers to her father's murder. Exactly. Headlines don't sell papers, newsies sell papers. But Gwen Stacy's the dame. She's trying to find out answers about her father's murder, but guess who murdered her father? It was Spider-Man. Dun, dun, dun. And there's shooting Nazis, and there's all kinds of new bad guys introduced. There's one guy, his name is Hard Boil. Oh, it's a boil. It's a boil on the guy's head. It's Hard Boil.
Sounds egg-based to me. Is this like Egghead? Is that
no? But there are egg creams that show up in this series, and somebody's like, there's no egg in there. But I think there's a certain dynamic here in this series that you guys would just eat up with a spoon. I did have one issue with the ending, and I love Eric Larson. I love Eric Larson's 90s stuff, but there are times where I have issues with his storytelling. And I was like, wait, did I miss a page? And then I went online and he was like, no, it's just, we're putting the toothpaste back in the tube. And I'm like, then you put a panel in to say that, Eric Larson. But the rest of it I really enjoy. So Spider-Man Noir, the Gwen Stacy affair, it is tons of fun from Eric Larson and company. And it's definitely worth your time. And I can't wait for the Spider-Man Noir show that's going to come out here.
Oh, yes. Waiting with bated breath. We might have to save this book for a future show come like June or something after we got a couple episodes of that Spider Noir show under our belts, because I think that's dropping late May, and so that should be a good place to read that, Chad. So stay frosty, kids. We might get to the Spider-Man Noir book sooner rather than later on the last Comic Shop episode.
And don't forget, when you see Spider-Man, Superman, that's a different book than Superman, Spider-Man. I don't know why Marvel and DC are doing this. Can't they just trade off?
That's literally what they did. They literally traded off.
Yeah, but I mean, they put out 17 different covers for each, and nobody knows there's new content on the inside.
One thing that's always new content is the Last Comic Shop. You're going to get it every single week by going out to www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com, rate, reviewing, and subscribing so you don't miss any of these episodes that we've got coming up, including next week's episode. Yeah, we teased it way back in the Merry Marvel March Society. We're reading Drone next week. That's Chad's pick. It's got a lot of panels, lots of cool art.
I can't wait to see if you guys figure that one out, too. That's going to be fun to talk about. I wanted to see if I figured it out.
So rate, review, and subscribe. Find a podcasting platform you like. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever it happens to be. Get out there, subscribe to our show so you don't miss that episode coming up.
And you don't want to miss visiting your local comic shop, because while we might be the Last Comic Shop podcast, we actually want to be the Last Comic Shop. So get out there, spend some dough, support those folks that are out there bringing cool things like Superman, Spider-Man, and Spider-Man, Superman to you for your comic enjoyment. And then don't forget to check out some of our other recommendations like Magic and Colossus or Giant Size Creatures #1, or what was your Tigra book? You got a whole Tigra book?
It's the Tigra, the complete collection. Just kind of like Man Wolf, except with Tigra. Put them together on your bookshelf.
all the Tiger you're ever going to need. And then you can pick up Spider-Man Noir, the Gwen Stacy affair. But all that and more waits for you at your local comic shop, so get out there and check that out today. And then, once you're done with that, circle back to Last Comic Shop Podcast on the socials, see all the fun stuff we're putting out there. Golden Age covers, we're putting out comic book hauls, we're putting out fun conversations and all that other good stuff. But and that could also lead you back to our website, www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com, where we have links to those things, links to past shows, and links to what else, J.A.?
A link to our merch store where you get T-shirts, coffee mugs, tote bags, shorts, sweatshirts, and every week, not just this week, you can get multiple different variations of that shirt. So it's like a variant cover every week, baby.
All
That's
the
right.
variants.
Get them all. Get the crackle. Get them in different colors. Get them in different heathers. You know you
That's
want
right.
it.
All the different Heathers.
You can have a Last Comic Shop shirt for every day of the week. That's how I roll. And one other way that I roll is making sure that I get all of my comic book supplies at a discount price by using LCSPOD at checkout when I'm over at bcwsupplies.com. That's right. You want to save 10%? Just put that promo code in at checkout. Not only will save you a little bit of kizash, but it will also help support the Last Comic Shop and our continuing mission to talk to you about comics. Because, you know, that's what we like to do every week. So if you like to hear us do it, then again, buy some supplies, help us out. LCSPOD. Best way to kill two birds with one frickin' stone. Yeah.
Right, take that, birds.
Hate you, birds.
Yeah.
Get out of here, birds.
Wings
Spring
and your-
birds keeping me up in the morning, singing at the crack of dawn. I hear you out there building nests. I don't need you singing all the time. Case. We've got more Last Comic Shop next week. Until then, I was the host with most, Andy Larson. I was joined by Jay Scott and Chad Smith. Get out there to your local comic book shop. Pick up those thousands of copies of Spider-Man and Superman, or Superman and Spider-Man.
Just
Tickles
know
your
there's
fancy.
two different versions. There's a bunch
That's
of
right.
comics, but there's two different comics inside.
Until then, stay safe. Stay comic book buying. That's right. Get out there. Buy some comic books. Support your local comic book shop. And remember that alligators in the wild, they can grow up to 26 feet, but most of them only have 4.
Oh.
That's like,
That's a thinker. A math joke.
That must be a geek joke, not a nerd joke.
No, the nerds are the ones that know math. Geeks are just the people that bite the heads off chickens.
The Last Comic Shop podcast was a 2026 Black Angus production.